Alright, so as I was saying, I was about to show you guys the Foxtrot concealment holster. Guy online recommended it to me. I just should probably just clarify quickly. I ran out of memory on my phone, so I just kind of deleted some old stupid shit, and now I can get back to the video. So, decent holster. This is the one that I have used the least, probably. I don't think, I don't know, it's a little bit loose, like you can, and it's just, it's weird, like I can't really get rid of it with the retention screw because I've sort of pancaked that out. You can see how much of the screw head is sticking out there. I could tighten it down more, but I don't know how much more I want to do it because it's actually pulling the screw into the Kydex a little bit, kind of denting it in. But I don't know. I was a little bit disappointed because I think the molding is pretty good. It's it's like detail molded. You can see all the controls. You can see the scallops or the serrations, whatever the hell you want to call them, on the slide. It's the molding is pretty nice. So I was kind of hoping it would be a little bit better because it bothers me that it moves around so much. I mean, it's kind of annoying. It's not nearly as tight to the gun as the CYA, but shit. That being said, bump the table. That being said, this is significantly nicer than the CYA. I haven't had to modify this in order to make it comfortable for sitting. It's much. Much more comfortable like this, so that is an advantage. Now I was also hoping that the molding would be a little bit tighter to the gun like this because this is 60 thou Kydex versus 80 thou Boltaron, so you're only talking 40 thousandths, so it's not a dramatically thinner piece of equipment, but I mean it would be a little bit thinner. And between the tighter molding that actually matches the controls on the gun, I was hoping that it would be skin tight to the gun to give me a little bit thinner profile, which would be nice. It's not the end of the world, but I mean every little bit helps. Yeah, but ended up being it's actually not. It might even be a slightly bulkier than the CYA, just because it's a little bit bulged. I'm trying to figure out how to show this. It's a little bit bulged from the gun, and in places it's actually thicker. Like, I'm trying to kind of eyeball this here. No, I don't know. They're probably about the same. I think they're about the same. The other thing is that the ride height is a tiny bit different. So if you actually look, if you line up the clips, the CYA is going to be just a hair. It's difficult to tell. It's a hair lower. It's basically like the lip. It's like this lip here, lower. The CYA is mainly because it's the muzzle's a little bit more open. It kind of comes to the end of the gun, and then they cut it off rather than have that extension on the Foxtrot. But it's not a bad holster. It works. It was even cheaper than the Galco, and for 20 bucks, this would certainly get the job done. It's got enough room where I can get pretty much a full grip. It does come a little bit close to the trigger guard here, so it's not super comfortable, but I can still. I'll show you. I can still grab the gun. It keeps it a little bit, maybe a little bit. I'll just do this on camera. Billy Button. I'll just do this on camera so that I can really kind of tell. Because to be honest, I haven't looked at this in a little bit. I wonder. Yeah, let's see. With the way I have this set up, it's very nearly the same, but. Basically, the trigger guard of the gun is directly at, like, it starts at the seam. It starts right in this corner here is the end of the grip. So with this, I would imagine it's very very similar. Yeah, it will be. It might be a hair higher actually. So yeah, with this, it's just a hair higher. It's maybe like a 1/16 of an inch higher, which actually does make it a little bit easier, I think, to grab than the CYA. And in all honesty, the rattliness isn't, you know, it's not a big deal. And like I said, it's very comfortable to sit down. I wouldn't. It's not, to me anyway. It's not really that much more bothersome, if at all, than the Stow and Go, because it's a little bit higher ride height. Again, that ride height is actually nice because it tends to makes it easier to grab. It makes it sometimes anyway, it can make it a little easier to conceal. At least it generally does for behind the hip carry. Oh look, fat. Anyway, my belt's just kind of tight. But anyway, so it's nice. It's a fairly quick draw. It's a little bit, you know, more frictiony than the CYA. It doesn't quite pop out. It's more of like a, you can feel the controls rubbing on stuff, which is, you know, it is what it is. It's not really a big deal. It's not like I'm going to die because there's a slightly higher amount of friction, so I can't, you know, draw my gun like a 100th of a second faster or anything like that. I don't even know if it is any faster, to be honest. I haven't timed it. I don't really fuck around with timers because I'm not an operator. But anyway, decent holster. Not bad at all. For 20 bucks, I would take one of these any day of the week. It's real great. You know, like I said, it does kind of bother me that it's a little bit rattly, shifts around a little bit, but I mean, it's not bad. With the compression of the belt, it takes care of it. It's the exact same clip that's on the CYA. It just doesn't have that little logo stamped into it, so it's decent. I mean, it's not bad at all. That brings me to the final one, which I just got. This is the most recent one I've got. It is a DeSantis, what's it called? Mini Scabbard is what it was. The DeSantis Mini Scabbard. This is a pretty nice one, I think. I'm just trying to fuck with the lights, but anyway, this is a pretty nice holster. It's an OWB. There's a single folded over slot, and there is a slot, as you can see, for a belt loop, which means, excuse me, when you I had a bunch of fish, kind of burping. When you when you put this on your belt, if you choose to use the loop slot, loophole, it's not going anywhere. You'd have to tear the loop off of your pants, which is just, I don't know what kind of condition the gun and holster would be in if that happened, because, you know, between the belt and the pants loop, it's pretty sturdy. But anyway, it means that it's not going to move around very much. It does actually stabilize the holster better when you do that, because it's sort of putting that extra tension. You've got something under there, so it's pulling on these tabs a little bit more. It's pulling down on it more. So I have found that it makes it more stable, and it won't move around on you so much horizontally, vertically. It's a little bit better that way. The only problem with that is that with certain pants, it's not going to. You know, like here, I could carry it here in the woods. You know, it'd be nice, which I usually do. But another pair of pants that I have is a little bit. They would have a belt loop. This belt loop would be sort of a little farther out, and then there'd be one right here, which I really like. It's a little bit closer, but this one only has one way in the back, so I can't do that. It's like, it'd be like 9 o'clock. Right above my ass, which I don't want this kind of holster there. I don't really want a gun, you know, by my lower vertebra. I just don't. If I fall and land on it, it's not gonna be pretty. But yeah, it's a nice holster. There's a retention screw here with a little rubber washer in there. This is obviously specifically for the Shield 45. I got it at Cabela's because I was just kind of messing around, happened to be browsing around, and they had this gun. So or excuse me, this holster, not the gun. So I picked it up because I didn't have a nice OWB one for it yet, other than the Galco paddle light, which I cannot use with this front sight because it is way too sharp. It's very square cut, and it's kind of high off the gun, and that paddle light doesn't work anymore. It just digs into the holster. It rubs leather fibers off onto the sight and kind of fucks up the sight picture, and so I stopped using it, which is kind of a bummer because I like that paddle holster design. I'll have to get another one in the future, but this has a nice sight channel. As you can see, it's only partially up the gun, but that doesn't really seem to affect anything. I have never ended up with leather on the front sight, which can't really ask for more than that. So you holster it, and I think it's not a problem because when you holster it, there's enough space here that when you're pushing it in, it doesn't slide up into the front of the holster until you get to that certain point. So this seems to be pretty well designed, is basically what I'm saying. Very minimalist, doesn't really add much to the gun, even width wise. It's pretty, pretty slim. Very nice. I've been using it as my like range holster now. Haven't gone to the woods since I got this, but well, I'm sure it'll be just fine. It's cool because it's an open top holster, so I can still get a very quick draw, but it's because of this retention screw, I'm able to keep it pretty tight, so it's not, if I'm jogging or running around or something, like outside, which I haven't had to do with this holster yet, but the last time I was in the woods putting bait out there for the Bruins, the bears, the mosquitoes were horrible. I mean, like my grandpa said, he could never remember a time when they were that bad in his entire life, which, I love the guy, but I mean, he's been drunk for, 60% of his life, so I don't, he might have had like a 10 times worse, experience with the mosquitoes, but he could have been half in the bag and just don't remember, so, but, no offense, Gramps, I'm just saying, just saying. But I don't know, from what he said, it was one of the worst times of his entire life for sure. He said he couldn't remember something that bad before, and we did end up literally, I ended up running back to the truck to grab more cover garments for the fucking bugs because it was so damn bad. But yeah, so I mean, in a situation like that, this is certainly tight enough where it's not going to be, it's not going anywhere, but it's still an open top holster, so I just grab it and draw it, and it's fine. It comes right out. There's no thumb break or anything goofy like that. It should work quite nicely. Initially, I was thinking that this could be used for concealment, and it in the winter with a full coat on it might work for that, but it's not. I don't know. I would want a pancake type holster that really pulls tight to the body if I was trying to conceal this, because this allows a little bit too much lateral movement this way, and it does keep the butt of the gun quite far out from my body, so it just, even with a shirt like this, it just prints too badly, and it's not particularly comfortable because I can't sit in a car with this without having like fucking back problems after a 5-minute drive. I just tried it the other day on the way to my shooting spot, and it was not comfortable at all, to say the least. I was literally like, my back was like hurting because I was fucking, had the gun between my right side of my back and the seat, so it was not good for that. So I don't think this is going to be a decent concealment holster for me, at least. Maybe for a larger person, but I can't hide it like this, and it's uncomfortable for sitting in a car. That being said, though, it does seem like a pretty nicely made holster. It's decent quality leather, unfinished on the inside, which is, it is what it is. It's like $50. So I mean, it's not like it's going to be like a custom grade holster or something, but pretty good, decent molding. The color is pretty nice. Yeah. So that's it. These are my 4 holsters at the moment. 2 leathers, 2 plastics. 1 Kydex, 1 Bolt-Around. If I was gonna keep any of these and just only go with one, I would probably go with this. I would probably go with the CYA right now. It's just I'm gonna do the same thing that I did here to the other side. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I wanted to see how it felt. I may actually round this even more, especially up here. I might give it a stronger taper, or curvature, I guess. So I'm probably going to modify this a little bit further, and then once I get this to where I like it, I will just mirror it on the other side, just match it to the other side. But yeah, this is a decent holster. I would probably, of the 4, I would keep this one for sure, because even on the range, this is not, if I'm standing there shooting and practicing my draw from carry, I like to use this because it's what one of the 3, I guess, or that I'm likely to actually have the gun in if I were to need to use it. So I've been practicing my draw from this for that sort of shooting, and then if I'm just taking shots at that keg at like 60 yards, 70 yards, then or just paper punching and stuff, then I've been using this the last few times, just because it's more comfortable and I don't have to worry about the gun being warm and put it in here. I don't, you put 100 rounds through the gun, it's going to get hot, and I know this is temperature resistant, but I don't really want to mess it up, because I like this holster. It's already kind of broken in, and it's I modified it. I don't want to have to like melt the damn thing and get a new one from Amazon, even though it wouldn't be terribly expensive, but why ruin it? So yeah, and then I'll wrap things up by going over a couple other things with the gun, just because I kind of got to get this shit out of my head. So I figured I'd tell the camera and see what whoever ends up on the other side has to say. So this one's empty. This is that 6-rounder I was just using for demonstrative purposes, but this is the 7-rounder. Right now I have Remington Ultimate Defense 230 grain compact handgun, hollow points in here. It's their classic brass jacket hollow point. Very decent. Oh, for Christ's sake. Well, anyway, maybe I should get a real camera. It's, man, anybody on the forum that I go on a lot is going to probably going to give me a lot of hell for having hollow points in here, because I've kind of been ragging on them since day one. Generally, I would like to be right back. I would like to have flat points in the gun, because it doesn't matter. These are Browning BPT. This is like the only one I could find locally. Ordinarily I would be using these. This is, if I could only have 1 round, I would use flat points, but I'm doing some Paul Harrell type meat target test soon. I got 3 watermelons and pork ribs, pork chops, and some shitty old polos to do some meat target testing with. So I'm gonna check all this out and just see what happens with these hollow points versus the Browning flat points. This is a 230 grain flat point doing FMJ flat point doing they rated at 920 out of a full size 5-inch, like a 1911 type gun. And I've seen a couple people anecdotally, haven't seen it on camera. I've seen a couple people in like reviews on different retail sites that said, one guy said 945 average out of his 1911. Another guy said I don't know, like 920, 915, 920, something like that. And they rated at 920. So I would, it's moving pretty fast for a 230 grain bullet that's not plus P. These are pretty potent. It's rated at the same, I believe it's rated at the same speed that Winchester White Box, or it might be like 15. I think it's 15 feet per second slower than Winchester White Box 185 grain full metal jacket, and this is 230 grains. It's a pretty. I mean, it's not playing around. It's a pretty potent round. But the reason that I would normally prefer these as a one round dual bullet for this type of gun is because and one of the reasons that I like the 45 a lot is because you get a big flat nose, big bullet, heavy bullet, and it's gonna drive through pretty much whatever you shoot at. I don't care what kind of clothing they're wearing, barring like, soft armor or plate armor or something like that. Obviously this is going to not penetrate that because it's a wide, flat, slow moving projectile, but for normal clothing, it doesn't matter. It's not going to get fucking clogged by the 4 layers of denim that I don't know how they came up with that shit, the FBI, but whatever. So it's not going to get clogged. It's not gonna do anything funky. It's gonna punch a hole right through whatever you shoot. Person, deer, bear, car door, house walls, furniture, whatever. I mean, it's going through that and through the person. Now there is a concern with that in crowded areas, which is one of the reasons that I've started to look into hollow points a little bit, but to be honest, I don't think it's a very realistic concern because what police officers, according to the FBI, the statistics that I've seen, they miss 80% of the time, and how many times do innocent people get shot? 80% of their rounds miss, and I can't find hardly any instances of random bystanders getting shot. Regardless of if it was a pass through or a miss. So I mean, you're telling me they miss 80% of the time, and people are not, getting shot in any kind of significant numbers from those situations. And you can have a hollow point that stops, 3 inches into the person's body, but if you miss, it's going to fuck someone up when it hits them, and people still aren't getting hit like that. So I don't think it's that big of a deal, but in a home defense situation, if I can get something to expand and push all the way through the person, I might consider using them. I might. So I've got these in here right now, more or less, just, I don't know, why not? If somebody comes into my house, it's going to be, I mean, I'm talking close, like it's going to be damn near within arm's distance that I'm going to be shooting, because this is a pretty small place, and this is a heavy hollow point at point blank range out of this gun is very likely going to expand, especially with these. But it's one of the other things that I prefer this type of bullet in general for, is because it doesn't matter what the range is, it performs the same every time. As long as you hit what you're aiming at, it punches a hole. This is either going to do, potentially a lot of, extra damage up close, but might not get a pass through, or at extended ranges, it might not expand. It can plug with clothing and not expand. It's just not, and they're extremely expensive. So I'm not convinced that these are significantly more lethal than this, or useful even than this, to justify paying $1 a piece or more for these type of rounds. But I'm gonna test it out in some meat targets and see what I think. I've got this Winchester White Box 230 grain hollow points as the sort of hollow point control. I just want to see if that actually expands out of this 2 3 3/8 inch barrel. Because if that expands out of this barrel, I'm not going to be buying expensive ass hollow points anymore. I just don't. I'm not. It's not worth it if the cheap shit works. And this is probably. It's hard for me to not use this. I'm more or less just doing this out of curiosity with the hollow points, and because I want to know if I'm wrong, so I'm going to actually test them out. But this is lethal, man. I mean, this hole in a lung with an exit hole, if you hit somebody in an area, let's leave out central nervous system shots, because it's obvious that you can kill somebody with one of those virtually instantly with almost any, certainly any center fire handgun. You can kill somebody with a CNS shot, no problem. And a 22, if it gets enough penetration, it'll do it too. But barring CNS shots, I want a pass through on the person.